discuss this administration's anti-corruption war, I'm now being joined on the news at 10 by a civil rights activist and public affairs analyst, Mr. Ezenwa Mwagu. He joins me from Abuja. Thanks for joining us on the news at 10.
Thank you and good evening.
Yeah, let me start off from the Vice President's comment today, where he said the time has come to open a new page in this anti-corruption campaign. Now, what do you make of that, seeing that their campaign is about 2 years old? We're 2 years old in the fight, and this comment is coming now.
Well, that's a very shocking admission by the Vice President that perhaps this is the lowest ebb in the past 2 years of the fight against corruption. The President himself, by his lack of initiative in dealing with folks who are close to him, has deliberately subverted whatever gains that have been made. And so the Vice President asking for a rejuvenation of the fight is pointing to the fact that right now, what is required will be that force of personal example by not just the President, but all the institutions that have responsibility to ensure that people who put their dirty hands in our common, in the public till do not get away with it. It needs rejuvenation because you can't continue to have committees set up, and reports of those committees will continue to gather dust in the office of the President. Of course, you know the Babachir Lawal's report, you know the Oke report, you know the petition around the MTN against the Chief of Staff to the President. All of those issues actually have been swept under the carpet. And that has put a hole, a big, very big hole in the confidence of Nigerians in the ability of this administration to rein in the abuses and infractions that we have seen in the country. But be that as it may, I think that message is coming quite timely now, because the fight has to be taken away from being President Buhari's anti-corruption fight and owned by the people. The Nigerian people will have to own this fight and ensure that, you know, the pressure is put on the government, whether it's President Buhari's government or any other government for that matter, because majority of the citizens are the direct victims of the consequence of this menace.
Well, it's
so I think it's a welcome call.
If I may just cut you off there slightly, it's interesting that you say the fight should be taken, you know, to the doorstep of the average Nigerian. You're from civil society as well. What should the role of civil society be at a time like this? A lot of people have criticized civil society for not speaking up enough. Do you think that that's a valid comment for them to make?
Well, sometimes I often make the joke that people tend to want to see civil society as that category that would always put forward their head for the coconut to be broken so that every other person will partake of it. But like I said, it is everybody's fight. Civil society, the media, citizens generally have responsibility to fight corruption everywhere we find it. And once we build this personality cult around the anti-corruption fight and make it President Buhari's hand, it alienates. It makes people to feel that it is just one of those, like you have 7-point agenda of Yaradua, you have transformation by Jonathan, and that this one too will pass. But the consequence of corruption is directly, you know, on the people. So if the people don't fight corruption, government in, government out will continue to use that as a strategy and I mean as a mantra, and once it is a mantra, it will not have the kind of effect that we require of it.
Okay,
so
now you're talking about,
I don't think it is a fair comment. I don't think it's a fair comment to say that civil society has not been speaking out. Most of the issues that have been raised even on Babachir, on Oke and all of that are direct consequences of some of the impetus that civil society has brought to the
everybody seems to have their own 2 cents about what this fight should be. We say fight corruption. Now, the form and the structure of the fight is something that still remains unclear, even to those who are trying to fight it. So is it really a case of selective justice that you see? What form should this fight take? Some people have talked about all the monies that are being recovered. What is the plan for those monies in an economy like ours? Do you see a clear strategy in terms of that?
Well, I think that, as you know, there is an anti-corruption strategy that talks more about the institutions rather than the people. And not quite a lot of people also are aware about what that anti-corruption strategy is. But for selectivism, I also would always tell you that how I wish that every government that comes will selectively rein in all the people, all the enemies of the people who are cornering our common patrimony. If they do that, in the space of 16 years, we will have been able to rein in quite a good number of folks who are putting their hands in our common strategy. I mean, in our common patrimony. But going with your question, in terms of structure, we need to nip and close all the holes that make it possible for people to take away what belongs to all of us. The law and order regime need to be strengthened. When people know that they are not likely going to get away, when we are not going to have a MENA kind of situation, when people know they will go to prison if they infract on the law, especially corruption, the likelihood of corruption reducing will be clear. But when we know that people will get away, they will find a way. It will be defined as I mean, the Attorney General of the Federation would explain away things on national that are acting on national interest. Then a lot of people will not have a reason to rein in themselves. So we need to be clear in terms of the law and order regime in the country. That's the difference between us and any other country. Everywhere, the propensity for corruption is high, but when people know they are going to pay the price, that itself will become the restraining factor. So we need to pay attention on education, we need to pay attention on the law and order regime, and ensure that people pay the price for the things that they do wrongly. All
right, Public Affairs Analyst Mr. Ezenwa Nwagu, thank you so much for joining us on the News at 10 tonight.